Today on Studio One, Kevin Olson brings a sense of stability to Bosnian refugee families when they first arrive in America. Protecting oneself when rape or abuse happens, a look at self-defense courses. How to plan your spring break vacation. The early planners make it the best spots. And we'll look at a new movie starring Eddie Murphy. In Vampire in Brooklyn, he is not playing a funny guy.
Now from the University of North Dakota with Scott Seiler and Stephanie Mars, this is Studio One.
Hi everyone and welcome to Studio One. Nice to have you along with us today. And if you happen to be walking around in our community and you see people wearing red ribbons on their outfits, there's a reason for it.
Yeah, it's Drug and Awareness, Alcohol Awareness Week, and so people are supporting that, and they're doing some seminars and stuff like that throughout the community. So a great project, and hope we see a lot of red ribbons out there.
Exactly, just to let everyone know about that. Well, coming up today on Studio One, we'll visit with Dennis Eggebraaten, a police officer who will tell us about the recent increase in gang violence in Grand Forks and what you need to look for. It may not be as obvious as you think.
We'll also meet Justin Dragosani, the president of a new group at UND, People for Alternative Realities.
But first, today's national news from CNN and news from around the region with Lucy Sivka. Lucy?
Thanks, Scott. With a 53-46 majority, the GOP will need nearly all its Senate members to toe the party line. Majority Leader Bob Dole doesn't expect that to be a problem in the expected vote of the Republican plan to balance the budget over 7 years. He made a number of concessions to moderate Republicans Thursday. The House, meanwhile, passed its package on an almost purely party line vote. Most Democrats say the cuts in taxes from social spending growth will only help Americans who don't need relief.
This budget and these next 14 or 15 months are about real differences and a difference in vision of where this country should go. Let the American people decide, and I believe they will decide for Medicare and for the middle class of this country, not the wealthiest of this country.
Here you have before you today the 7-year balanced budget resolution certified by the Congressional Budget Office that we, in fact, have met our goal, and the people of this country should understand that in 7 years we will, in fact, balance the federal budget and save this country and save the next generation.
Something many of us take for granted could affect the education of American children. Paper shortages are common in schools throughout the nation. Many schools set aside a paper budget at the beginning of the year. When this paper supply gets low, schools need to take measures to make it last.
Our message is that if we can recycle, it's better than cutting down another tree. So we try to really encourage recycling, and as far as the print, we want it to be necessary.
Paper prices have increased more than 75% in the past 2 years. Paper now costs approximately $3 for a ream of 500 sheets. The last time paper prices increased as much was in 1980. Dust off the old turntable. Many hot-selling bands and classic collections are available again on LP. The re-emergence of vinyl records does not necessarily mean a giant comeback. People who want records usually order them through a record store because companies only make a limited amount. The records are mainly collector's items for die-hard fans. People like albums because of their size, collectability, and price. A vinyl record costs the same as a compact disc, around $16. One of the big collector's albums is the Beatles Anthology, set for release November 21st. Spring break holiday starts March 9th. Have you packed your bags yet? Some students have already planned their trips for escaping the winter blues.
Going away for a spring break vacation seems out of reach to college students. Between finding a vacation spot that suits their needs and saving the money they need to pay for a trip, many students are left to think, maybe next year. But for one UND student, making your spring break vacation happen allows him to enjoy spring break too. Ryan Kelsey is a UND student who sells spring break vacations through a Minneapolis company. When Ryan reaches his goals, he is rewarded with a free trip to Acapulco with his tour group. Prices for the trips from the Bianchi Rossi Tour Company start at an advertised $389. But Ryan says, with an oceanfront hotel, the price of the trip can rise to around $500. He says that for the services you receive, it's worth the money.
Bob Yankarossi, who's the president of the company, has been doing business in Acapulco for over 22 years. The company's actually been doing tours to Acapulco, similar to what they are now, for about 8 years. So they're very well known in Acapulco and really have a lot of respect, and their business is very well respected.
But with the many options a vacationer has, what is the easiest way to set up your vacation? A Grand Forks travel agency says some trips that offer a guaranteed low price can sound better than they look.
Normally, our prices are going to be very comparable, but we have to compare apples to apples. I know a lot of times the spring break trips are quad occupancy, which means 4 people are sharing the room. Our prices that we publish are based on double occupancy. We can do quad occupancy, and that would drop the price.
Even though spring is over 5 months away, Ryan and Bonnie both agree that now is the perfect time to start planning your spring break vacation. This is Josh Anderson reporting for Studio One News.
And travel agents say this is the busiest time of year for making reservations. And that's the news for this half hour. Scott and Stephanie?
Thanks, Lucy. You know, that does look like a fun time. I never had the opportunity to do it, but have you?
No, and this is my last chance, so hopefully I'll be able to get to a warmer climate for a little while. Well, let's now go to Patrick Griesgraber at the Regional Weather Information Center. Patrick, do we see snow showers in the future?
Well, it looks like by this evening we'll see the chance of snow shower activity. Nothing like what central Minnesota and eastern South Dakota saw Monday this past week. And we're going to see just a slight chance for that later on this evening. We'll get to that in just a few minutes, but first off, here are the current conditions here in Grand Forks this morning. We're under mostly cloudy skies, our temperature 37 degrees, dew point is 34, relative humidity 89%, winds from the north at 7 miles per hour, and our pressure this morning 29.37 inches, and that's rising. Take a look at the temperatures across the region this morning. You can see temperatures are basically in the lower to mid 40s across the west. And as you move to the east, temperatures a little bit warmer. A few more clouds sticking around in the middle part of the atmosphere, holding in a little bit of that radiational cooling over the nighttime hours. 46 at Minneapolis this morning. Now, as we take a look at what happened just over the past 24 hours, this low pressure system passed through over the day yesterday, and right now we're seeing cloud cover across much of North Dakota, scattered showers anywhere from Jamestown up to Devil's Lake. This is where the heaviest activity is, though, right now, right around Arkansas into Tennessee and into Mississippi. There are 3 severe thunderstorm watches out for this area, some very unstable conditions as this cooler air mass settles in down through here, some heavier showers across the Great Lakes. Now, as we look in the forecast for today, we're looking for windy conditions to develop across eastern North Dakota, and in fact, this is a snow shower area, pretty much a mixed precipitation area. This low pressure system will continue to track towards the Great Lakes, wrap around effect moisture across Minnesota, but again, windy conditions for much of North Dakota for today. Now, as we move into Saturday, looking for those windy conditions to move off to the east, the snow shower activity should recede toward the north into central and northern sections of Manitoba. Clearing skies now starting to develop across the western part of the country. Let's take a look at the highs for today. Looking at 40s across much of North Dakota and Minnesota today, 50s across South Dakota down to the south. Now for tonight, lows will get down to about 30 degrees in the eastern part of North Dakota, 20s across the west, mainly because of the clearing skies during the nighttime hours. And as we look at the specific forecast for today, mostly cloudy skies, windy with scattered showers, winds north 15 to 25, gusting to 35, a high of 45. For tonight, mostly cloudy skies with isolated rain and possible snow showers, winds from the north at 10 to 20 and a low down to 33. And as we move into the extended outlook Saturday through Monday, our high temperature is going to be dipping down to about 32 degrees, and we might still have a chance for snow shower activity on Sunday. And remember, it is daylight savings time. Saturday morning is the actual time you need to turn your clock back 1 hour. That's the weather for this half hour. Back to you, Scott and Stephanie.
Thanks, Patrick. Well, that's a good tip. I would have forgotten all about it this week.
Exactly, especially you're traveling this weekend to a different time zone, so you're going to have to remember to really set it back. Well, we're wrapping up the World Series, and today in sports, Josh Morton gives us the details. Josh?
Thanks, Scott. Game 5 of the Fall Classic in Cleveland last night. Oral Hershiser taking the mound for the home team. The Braves starting Greg Maddux and looking to end the series. Cleveland hitters have been struggling against the best pitchers in baseball, but in the first inning, it's Albert Bell going to take Maddux deep to right field. This is a 2-run shot, and yes, it does just clear the wall. The Tribe keeping their 2-run lead until the 4th when Luis Polonia, acquired from the Yankees this summer, hits only his 3rd homer of the year, his first as a Brave, this one a solo shot off the Bulldog. But Cleveland does seal the win in the 8th when Jim Thome facing Brad Klontz, and that ball is gone. 436 feet. Indians win 5-4. The teams head back to Atlanta for Game 6. And to the hardwood, Orlando and New York. No Patrick, no Shaq, but the Magic did find a penny. Anthony taking it strong to the hole and one. And the only Heisman Trophy winner in the NBA, Charlie Ward, looking like a defensive back with the steal and the layup. Knicks get the preseason win in the arena, 95-73. And that's a look at the national highlights. Now here's a look at the overnight scores. An improving Sioux women's volleyball team is coming down the home stretch of their season. The team returns this weekend after a successful trip to Florida. The women won 3 of 4 matches down south, including a 3-game sweep of Florida Southern, a top 10 team. The Sioux host Morningside and the University of South Dakota for Parents Weekend Friday and Saturday in Grand Forks. With a win on Wednesday night against Bemidji State, the Sioux reached the 500 mark. And in our second half of sports, we'll take you to one of the most important rooms on campus for injured athletes. Scott and Stephanie?
Thanks, Josh. Still ahead today on Studio One, Kevin Olson has been honored for his outstanding service to the Grand Forks community, mainly because of his tremendous support of people.
But first we'll talk with Dennis Eggebraaten. He'll tell us how the Grand Forks Police Department is closing in on gang violence and what we can do to help stop it from expanding. 10 minutes now past the hour. Studio One continues after this.
We want to hear what you have to say about Studio One. Contact us on the internet. Our email address is udstudio@badlands.nodac.edu. Let us know what you think about our show. Or better yet, give us your story and guest idea of who you'd like to see on Studio One.
Insurance. Unfortunately, it costs. Fortunately, it pays. Voller Insurance. Grand Forks, Devil's Lake, Bismarck.
Banking is easy when you have options, like the options you get at Community National Bank. Like their friendly tellers. Can I have this traded in for nickels?
Sure, Bill.
And I love going to customer service.
That's your old Bill.
Yes, thank you. That's customer service. Check cash card convenience when you need it the most. And those drive-ups, always one of my favorite options. And these 24-hour ATMs conveniently located all over town. Aren't they the best?
Meet me at Columbia. Meet me at Columbia Mall.
There's always something happening where laughter overflows. People meeting people, an exciting place to go. Something's there for everyone, and you can see it all. You're free to choose a million things, so meet me at the mall.
Meet me at Columbia Mall.
Great food can come from anyone, as long as the shredded natural cheese comes from Sargento of Wisconsin.
And pick your insurance company? As your agent and broker, that's our exact job. We think we do it well, and have been since 1947. Voller Insurance, Grand Forks, Devil's Lake, Bismarck.
You're watching Studio One, news, weather, sports, and entertainment.
When we hear about gangs, we usually think of leather jackets and a large group of unruly-looking people. However, not many of us would think of gangs if we saw a strange symbol on a necklace or a bandana hanging out of a pocket. But recently, these items are linked to gangs. Sergeant Dennis Eggebraaten joins us to talk about why we need to educate ourselves. Dennis, thanks for joining us today. How did you first get onto this?
Well, I guess I was working, I worked narcotics partly, and I worked car thefts and a few other burglaries, and it eventually became known that there was groups of people that were doing these together, and we slowly evolved that there was looked like we had a gang problem in town here.
How long ago did you notice this?
I personally noticed, and a few other officers noticed about 2.5 years ago, that we could identify certain groups of people.
So how do people need to become aware of something like this? Well, how do they notice this?
Well, basically the groups of kids that are affiliated with gangs, they have certain dress codes that they have. Some may not be as noticeable as others. Usually they have what's called a flag or a bandana that they wear. But a lot of times, recently, especially when we've had more awareness of it, they've been maybe carrying them in their pocket, or they're not as open as they used to be because they don't want to be well known right now, it appears.
What's the difference between local gangs and national gangs?
Okay, national gangs are probably more organized. They're more orientated to sections of cities. They've got their own barrio or whatever you want to call it. And our local gangs, the Midwest gangs, when you get to smaller towns, they don't necessarily have territories. They're just the type of group that just maybe neighborhoods get together, but they travel around a small city. It's easier to travel around than a bigger city, so it's not as well known to territorialize their section, so they move around a lot.
Today you brought along with you some examples of the weapons that the local gangs use, and they're not your ordinary types of weapons.
No, these were basically found by a middle school in Grand Forks here, and it was just a report of a possible gang fight that was going to happen. They were just found in a dumpster, and these were made by some of our local kids.
The amazing thing that you touched on, you said they were found in the middle school. How have the gangs infiltrated the schools?
How have they? They just, the schools are doing a pretty good job of monitoring how they're doing, but they just emerged into the schools. You know, they have their connections between the students, and if you ask a lot of the students in the schools if there's a gang problem, they'll say, yeah. They're not affiliated, but they know, they hear the talk, they know who to stay away from, of which kids are in trouble.
How would you rank the gang problem? Is it a low concern, a medium concern, or a high concern for you right now and for the Grand Forks Police Department?
Well, I guess in my readings and knowledge from other communities, this should be at least a medium concern for this community, because if we don't start doing something now, they'll get a foothold here, and we will never get rid of the problem. Economically even, it'll cost us more if we don't do anything now than if we do something now.
So how do we educate people about this?
I guess we got to educate ourselves. We got to find out what other communities have done to curb the gang problems. We have to have different sections of the community look into the problem. The mayor in Grand Forks here has proposed a 25-member task force to deal with youth gangs or violence or whatever, and that should be a positive step if we move fast enough on it. If we delay too long, it may be a problem.
What type of information have you gotten from larger communities like Chicago and New York, the larger cities that have had the gang problems for a long time? What type of methods are they doing to knock this off, and that you can use in our area, in the Grand Forks area, and other smaller communities to try and stop this or put a stop to it early?
The larger communities, of course, theirs are more visible than ours are, or the Midwest towns, because they are sectioned off. The police departments have regular gang suppression units. They're devoted. We don't have that yet. We don't have anybody devoted to just working gangs. You know, we do it when we can. The problem that we have as far as education and taking care of the problem, they have told us in the end that you have to develop so many resources. You have to develop youth resources. The school has to develop sources and identify, and you have to develop programs for the parents to know what to look for if their kids start to have problems. You have to start with the justice system. We have to be a little more tougher. They're overburdened right now, and they're having an influx of kids getting into the system too, so it's becoming to be overburdened right now.
Keep our eyes open, that's the main thing. Dennis, thanks for joining us today.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
No problem.
About 19 minutes now after the hour in Studio One. Just ahead, we'll get a prairie perspective on NASA and the value of space exploration. But first, we'll show you how Kevin Olson is making a difference in his community. He's helping Bosnian families get resettled in the safe havens of America.
Make a memory, make a friend, make a fantasy come true in the end. Make a dream to be remembered more than anything could say.
Hi, I'm Nancy Schaefer. Please support the Make-A-Wish Foundation so we can continue to make dreams come true for these special children.
I was looking for a car for 3 months, and the folks at Honda Nissan knew I did TV commercials. And so they asked me for suggestions, and all I could tell them was how great I was treated at Honda Nissan. And the next thing you know, here I am. When I went to Honda Nissan, I was treated with such respect. And I really couldn't believe the quality and selection that I found there. People always tell me that you get what you pay for. But at Honda Nissan, you really do get what you pay for.
Only you
can prevent forest fire.
And it's true. We know we can count on you to do what Smoky says.
Drown your campfires with water. Make sure it's totally wet. Then stir and drown again.
We know we can count on you to do what Smoky says.
Only you can prevent forest fires.
Math, a four-letter word, right? Hey, you don't need that. Why design the world's newest chips? When you could be flipping the world's oldest burgers. Hey, wait a minute. This is math. Geometry, algebra. No pocket protectors here. But you're cruising without math. Yeah, right. Take a good look. That's math staring back at you. It's not a problem, man. It's an answer. Call NACME. We'll tell you what you need to do.
For one Grand Forks man, volunteering for the Bosnian Refugee Coalition is his passion. Kevin Olson is a North Dakota state trooper who's finding his niche helping Bosnian refugee families in his spare time. He's spending countless hours recruiting citizens to assist with the resettlement of Bosnians in Grand Forks. Studio One's Kristen Slutland shows us why Kevin Olson is someone we want you to meet.
Welcome to America is what these people are waiting to tell yet another family who has escaped the war in Bosnia. Kevin Olson is a key person in getting families out of danger because of his communication with government officials. For the past few years, Kevin has greeted new arrivals and says emotions run wild each time families are reunited.
It's very emotional. You know what their family members have been through in losing all of their earthly possessions. Since I've been involved in the program for a little over 2 years now, without fail, it's fair to say that for each person arriving, they have about 2 suitcases per person, is all of the belongings they bring.
Kevin says there's no room in their suitcases for everything, so the coalition helps them with their extra needs.
Generally speaking, nobody's shown up yet off the plane with the winter coat. It's taking up too much valuable space.
Battling the harsh winters isn't the only thing the refugees have to contend with while living in the Midwest. They also need the basics: food, clothing, and shelter.
We're involved just starting this fall with running a concession stand at UND at the football games, and we've done 1 hockey game so far, where UND supplies the booth and the supplies, and whatever's taken in, the coalition would get 10%. So it's a lot of work involving a lot of people, but it pays the rent.
Kevin was recently awarded the individual JCPenney Golden Rule Award for his efforts. This honor was for his service in the community of Grand Forks. Kevin has made a difference by recruiting citizens to volunteer their time to assist in the resettlement of the Bosnian refugee families. Kristen Slutland, Studio One.
Kevin says the most rewarding part of his job is the friendships he's gained. He said they've gone beyond anything he thought was possible. Eddie Murphy stars in the new film Vampire in Brooklyn. He plays a merciless vampire who ventures into New York in search of a mate. His potential vampiress is played by Angela Bassett, who is chosen because of a unique blood bond she shares with the vampire. A New York police officer, played by Alan Payne, tries to save her, but he realizes he has taken an age-old evil and his chances of survival are small. The movie stars Kadeem Harrison, Joanna Cassidy, and John Witherspoon.
Preacher Paulie, and if you've been misbehaving, Preacher Paulie's here for saving.
Well, I think that I'm beyond saving.
Vampire in Brooklyn starts Friday, October 27th in theaters around the nation. Now, time to look at the events happening in your area.
Advertising is everywhere you go. It's in magazines, on television, and in your newspaper. Everyone, no matter what age, is affected by the advertising content. The latest example of public controversy is the Calvin Klein ads. We asked people this question: should there be more control over what adults and children hear and see? Here are your thoughts on advertising.
This may sound a bit old-fashioned, but I continue to believe that a lot of younger people continue to be influenced very, very strongly by what they see on television. And I think anytime we open up advertising to virtually anything, you risk young people getting only bits and pieces of information.
In general, it's okay, but some of the stuff on TV is a little bit too much for kids to see.
Actually, I think just from time to time, it is a tendency for people to kind of, they get a little racy with some of it, a tendency for it to go a little extreme, I think, to either shock people and things. But for the most part, I think it's pretty much stabilized.
I think that there should be a little bit of restriction on advertising. As far as, personally, I don't necessarily buy a product because the advertisement says that the other product is a lot worse. I would rather see an advertisement that just says what your product does.
Space may be the final frontier, but North Dakota will be at least a stepping stone in discussing the importance of boldly going where no person has gone before. NASA and the University of North Dakota Space Studies Department will host a two-day symposium on the value of space exploration and what impact the rural areas will have on its future. NASA officials hope to gain insight from North Dakotans for future decision-making. Now this interactive conference will link 6 North Dakota communities by satellite. Symposium Director Joanne Gabrunowitz says satellite technology is an important asset to gain opinions from residents for NASA to use in its planning.
What is happening is, well, there is something called remote sensing. And remote sensing is the use of satellites to observe the Earth and the Earth's environment. That includes looking at crops and forests and growth in general.
Some of the featured speakers include North Dakota native and former shuttle astronaut Rick Heeb and Rodney Fillade, president of Agri-Images, an agricultural satellite imaging company. 27 minutes now after the hour, and coming up in our next half hour in Studio One, Justin Dragosani will tell us what the new group, People for Alternative Realities, is all about. Plus, a look at how people can be attacked anywhere. We'll show you how both men and women are protecting themselves with self-defense courses. That story plus news, weather, and sports as Studio One continues.
UND's Division of Continuing Education can help you learn throughout your lifetime. Begin or continue your education through correspondence study and learning after hours with classes on weekends and evenings. Or enhance your personal and professional development through conferences, management seminars, and specialized programs.
Our goal is to provide quality programs and extend UND resources to you.
For more information, call 777-4266 or 1-800-342-8230.
Picasso painted the old guitarist during a period of depression that lasted 4 years, his blue period. Today, with new discoveries, 80% of depressive disorders are being successfully treated, giving hope to millions that maybe now, nobody has to have a blue period.
It's only a little motor oil.
What difference is one drop of paint going to make?
This much fertilizer isn't going to pollute anything.
You're looking at a sea of excuses, created drop by people like you and me. Our waters can be saved if each of us does their part. Drop by drop. If we all do a little, we can do a lot. Brought to you by the Natural Resources Defense Council, the EPA, and the Ad Councils of the US and Japan.
Newman Outdoor Advertising, a sight for more eyes. Outdoor advertising, it's bigger than life. It gives you flexibility. Use it as a constant reminder. Use it to advertise your message or product. Outdoor advertising, it's big, it's bold. Get your message across. Outdoor advertising, it works. For more information, call Bill Kasager in Fargo or Grand Forks.
And welcome back to Studio One. Nice to have you continuing to be with us. We have a nifty way of reminding you to change the battery in your smoke detector.
Yes, Domino's is teamed up with some local businesses, and they're going to randomly select people who order pizzas from there. The delivery person will come in and check your smoke detector. If it works properly, you'll get a free pizza, and if the battery's dead, they'll provide you with a battery, and if you do not have a smoke detector, they'll provide a smoke detector to selected homes, which will be installed by the local fire department. So it's a great idea to keep checking those smoke detectors.
Yeah, good precautionary methods,
Yep.
That's true. Well, coming up today on Studio One in the next 30 minutes, our news team reports on how women in rural areas are getting yearly mammograms without having to travel to the nearest medical facility.
We'll give you an in-depth look at a sexual assault and the measures people are taking to prevent it from happening.
And we'll take a big step back in time and see costumes from the medieval time period. But first, today's national news from CNN and New Regional News with Lucy Sivka. Lucy?
Scott. A school bus driver involved in Wednesday's collision with a passenger train in Chicago said she had no warning. Patricia Catenkamp told federal investigators the bus was noisy and she never saw or heard the train before impact. 2 more students died, bringing the death toll in the accident up to 7. Investigators want to know why the bus was stopped on the train tracks. Statements from witnesses and from the bus driver herself suggest the signal system at the train crossing may have malfunctioned.
I wouldn't say that we know for sure that it goes green. I would not say that we know that it didn't go green. But the driver's statement is that it did not go green.
Investigators say whether or not the light turned green, the driver still only had 2 to 7 seconds to move off the track. Residents have reportedly made several complaints about the crossing. A close vote is expected in Monday's referendum on Quebec independence from Canada. Polls show residents of the mostly French-speaking province are almost evenly divided on the issue, with the separatists having a slight lead. Prime Minister Jean Chrétien is warning Quebecers that if they vote to pull out of Canada, their decision would be a very dangerous gamble. Chrétien re-emphasized his former promise that no constitutional changes affecting Quebec would be made without his consent. Getting tested for HIV could affect your chances of receiving health insurance. North Dakota requires confidentiality for HIV testing, but they do need the patient's name. Grand Forks Public Health says patients have to sign a consent form prior to testing. A regional insurance company says if a person has given them full access to their medical records and they see they've been tested for HIV, that could affect whether the company will cover them.
Before you sign anything, either read it well or ask, what will this be used for? Who will get this information? That would be important with any medical records. I think probably especially with HIV.
UND Student Health Services says when signing your medical records over to an insurance company, you can be specific to what they can access. A van is helping women fight breast cancer. The mammogram van is one of 150 customized vans across the country that allow women to be screened for breast cancer. The Cancer Society say women should have their first mammogram by age 40. Breast cancer is the second leading cause of death among women. A woman enters the van, gets x-rayed, and then waits for a radiologist to review the x-rays, which takes about 1 to 2 weeks. The procedure takes about 15 minutes and costs $65, the same price as in a medical facility. Antique tractors were rolling through the streets of Grand Forks. The Antique Tractor Show and Pull was in town and attracted many tractor lovers.
A full day of roaring engines and big tires. The home of economy held its second tractor show in front of the store. Different makes and models were lined up for display. People stop and take a glimpse to reminisce about the days of old.
The purpose of the show, first really, is to have some fun and generate a little excitement around here. But we originally were a farm store, we're still a farm store, and we need to tell people that.
Pearson says he generated the idea of Tractor Show and Pull because he collects antique tractors himself. Pearson is not the only one who enjoys this hobby.
I've got about, I believe last count is 23 tractors that would be considered the classic iron type. They're not all fixed up as well as this one, but many of them are, but some of them are not.
Burkholder says he finds his tractors by traveling out to the countryside and buying old tractors. He also says collecting tractors takes a lot of time and money.
It gets to be sometimes pretty expensive hobby, but as my wife says, it keeps you out of the bar.
Burkholder hopes to one day pass the tradition down to his son, who often travels with him to the tractor shows. Despite the chilled noses and numbed fingers, people brave the cold to participate in the engine-roaring sport.
Tractors are not just equipments, but they are also toys for all ages. This is Manipanlam Kampui reporting for Studio One News.
The Antique Tractor Show was judged with different categories. $56 was given out to 4 winners, honoring Home of Economy's 56th anniversary. Dressing casual on the University of North Dakota campus has now become a monthly event. But there is a catch. It will cost you $1. The last Wednesday of every month is considered Denim Day, giving faculty and staff the chance to dress casual at work. All of this is for a good cause. The proceeds go to local nonprofit organizations.
$1 goes for charity. It's really fun to be able to wear your sneakers and socks and be really comfortable. It's kind of a win-win situation.
Included in this price is a button that is worn to let people know that you are participating in the event. An average of $250 is raised every Denim Day. By the end of December, the $3,500 goal should be reached. And that's the news for this half hour. Scott and Stephanie?
Thanks, Lucy. Now, good cause, sending it to the community, raising money and going to the organizations within the city.
Yeah, great opportunity for those UND workers to support the community. Let's go now again to Patrick Griesgraber at the Regional Weather Information Center. Patrick, how's that weather forecast looking?
Well, it looks like it isn't going to be too good for the next 24 to 36 hours. We're going to see cloudy skies and scattered precipitation for the rest of today and into tonight, and quite possibly snow showers a little bit later on tonight. Take a look at that in the specific forecast just a few minutes. Let's take a look at the current conditions here in Grand Forks. Looking at mostly cloudy skies, temperature 34 degrees, dew point 33, relative humidity 96%, winds from the north at 8 miles an hour, and the pressure is 29.37 inches of mercury and rising. Here is the forecast for today. Look for mostly cloudy skies, windy conditions with scattered showers. Winds from the north at 15 to 25, gusting to 35, and a high of 45 degrees. For tonight, mostly cloudy skies with isolated rain and snow showers. Winds from the north at 10 to 20 and a low of 33. And in the Grand Forks specific extended outlook Saturday through Monday, our high temperature is going to drop down to 32. And the important point there is the overnight low is going to drop down to the mid to upper teens with a possibility of snow showers quite possibly Sunday evening. And again, daylight savings time is tomorrow. Turn the clocks back 1 hour. Back to you, Scott and Stephanie.
Thanks, Patrick. Boy, it looks like the temperatures are staying a lot cooler.
Did he say snow?
Yeah, it's coming sooner than we'd like.
We'll have to talk to Patrick about that. Let's go now and talk with Josh Morton and a second look at today's sports. Josh?
Thanks, Scott. Injuries are a part of any sport, but the key to a lot of college teams is how fast their players recover. And that depends a great deal on the athletic training staff. And thankfully for Sioux fans, UND is in pretty good hands. Making it to the playing field on Saturday afternoon takes a lot of work. In the weight room, in the meeting room, but maybe most importantly, in the training room. Many a game was won or lost based on which team had the fewest injuries. And luckily for UND sports, the training staff puts in some long hours.
We're in the training room probably 8 in the morning most days when we don't have class. Spend a couple hours in the morning and then go to class. And then usually some days we have a lunch break for an hour and then back to the training room at 1 o'clock for afternoon practice.
Carney majors in athletic training and is one of many students who are studying to be certified. Most of their study time spent in the training room learning how to get the athletes back to action. Sioux offensive lineman Tim Princeton suffered a serious knee injury last year, but thanks to physical therapists and trainers, he's back on the field.
The big thing is you got your therapist there pushing you all the time because you get in a rut and you don't feel like rehabbing anymore, but they're always there to push us, so that was the big thing, having them around.
And that's what makes the long hours worth it, when the trainers see an athlete make it back to the field.
It's nice to see that you can progress somebody through when they actually see them. They come in for the first time and they're down or distraught that they're going to be out for a while. And then you bring them back to the level they were at before. See them take those first steps in the game or whatever, make a big hit or something.
The trainers hoping more players make the big hit than take the big hit. And Carney plans on graduating in May and would like to go to physical therapy school to eventually become a trainer at the high school, college, or professional level. Here's another look at the scores from last night. And keeping with our sports injury theme, Northwestern University lost their kicker for the season after he tore ligaments in his knee while jumping up and down celebrating during the Wildcats' 35-0 win over Wisconsin. Scott and Stephanie?
Do you think that's a good enough excuse for his coaches?
I don't know. Kind of a foolish way to get hurt, but.
Yeah. 40 minutes now after the hour. Stay with us and meet Justin Dragosani and his combating partner. We'll even see them do a duel.
Plus a look at self-defense seminars that are held regularly to help women gain a sense of security.
Insurance. Unfortunately, it costs. Fortunately, it pays. Voller Insurance. Grand Forks, Devil's Lake, Bismarck.
The University Bookstore at UND is open to everyone and invites you to make it your lifelong learning resource center. At the largest university bookstore in the Dakotas, you can choose from a wide selection of educational materials, imprinted clothing, and gift items. The trade department carries general interest books, reference materials, and educational software. Special orders and direct mailing services are available at the University Bookstore by calling 1-800-671-0948.
Laughter overflows, people meeting people, an exciting place to go. Something's there for everyone, and you can see it all. You're free to choose a million things, so meet me at the mall. Meet me at Columbia Mall.
No matter what you have a taste for, Sargento recipe blends have a way to make it taste better. 4 cheese Mexican and 6 cheese Italian. From Sargento of Wisconsin.
And pick your insurance company. As your agent and broker, that's our exact job. We think we do it well, and have been since 1947. Voller Insurance, Grand Forks, Devil's Lake, Bismarck.
You're watching Studio One, news, weather, sports, and entertainment.
The number of sexual assaults is rising across the United States, but people are making an effort to reduce their risk through education. Studio One's Lucy Sivka takes an inside look at sexual assault and what measures people are taking to prevent it from happening to them.
It's like if I kind of reach out to grab you, it's just jerking down and jerking down. Get your hands off me.
Gary Cecil holds self-defense seminars regularly, but this seminar is different. This one is aimed at women to help them gain a better sense of security.
I want women to be aware of their environment. I want women to be able to respond appropriately to inappropriate situations that they're faced with.
Gary begins every class with an information session. He talks to participants, giving them real-life scenarios and asking them what they would do in such situations. Further into the class, he demonstrates some basic self-defense moves, hoping this will give both women and men options.
I feel like if I could help one person someday do something right and get out of a bad situation without resorting to violence or being harmed herself, great. That's one more that won't become a statistic.
Although the self-defense class is geared toward women, the men in the class make it more comfortable for some.
I don't believe that just women need to take these, and I was happy to see men here because I think that men can be under just as much threat, whether it might not be a sexual threat as much, but a violence, a threat of violence, a threat of attack.
A woman is raped every 4 minutes in the United States. Although some people think that it doesn't happen in small communities, it even happens on the streets of Grand Forks.
Catherine Smith Haugrud counsels rape victims at the Community Violence Intervention Center. She feels too many people are tuning out when the topic of rape comes up, thinking that they've heard it all before.
There have been a lot of stories done on rape and sexual assault and domestic violence, and you hear it all the time. And October is Domestic Violence Unity Month. But there's a reason for that. The reason for that is because it happens all the time.
Although there were only 3 reported rapes on the University of North Dakota campus in 1994, reports indicate that 9 out of 10 rapes are not reported. Therefore, the number is much greater than people want to believe. Catherine thinks it's good that people are taking a step forward to take self-defense classes, but she still believes you won't be guaranteed safety.
I think it's wonderful for anybody, victim or not victim, to take a self-defense course, because I think that can really offer some people a sense of self. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be safe. Oftentimes when victims fight back, they're putting themselves in even more danger.
Catherine works with other counselors at the center to guide victims through the healing process. Together they help victims realize they can get through it and to let them realize they aren't alone. For some people, the word rape means just another offense, but for others, the meaning is a lot stronger.
No matter when I hear about it, or if it's someone that I know, or it always affects me, and so it's hard for me to understand someone not being affected by it.
Self-defense classes may seem like an inconvenience at first, but for some, it has proven to be protection when they need it the most.
And Lucy Sivka joins us now for some additional information. Lucy, you mentioned in your story that there were 3 rapes in 1994 on the UND campus. What about the city of Grand Forks? Is that number considered high?
Okay, they log theirs a little differently. They call it sexual offenses. So there were 82 reported in 1994, but sexual offenses, that doesn't only include rapes, it also includes sexual comments or gestures that have been reported to the police.
Does the self-defense instructor need to be qualified in martial arts to teach the course?
Not necessarily. It probably would be an asset, but there are a lot of health clubs even here in Grand Forks around the city that are really big on self-defense classes, and they're not qualified in any martial arts.
Okay, great. Thanks, Lucy. Up next on Studio One, Stephanie talks with Justin Dragosani about what life was like during the medieval time period.
If there's something you want to know about Studio One, write us, call us, or fax us. Our address is Box 7307, Grand Forks, North Dakota, 58202. If you want to call us, dial 701-777-4346 or fax your message to us at 701-777-4342.
Gee, Vince, what kind of dummy wouldn't know how to use a child safety seat?
Beats me, lads. Child's play.
You just buckle him in.
Unless he's over 20 pounds.
Then this one's good.
Except if he's over 40 pounds.
Then you're into this kind of rig.
What if he outgrows that?
Put him in a booster seat?
What if he's too big for the booster seat?
Would he use the safety belt?
The Auto Safety Hotline can tell you everything you need to know about keeping your child safe in a car.
I'm a wreck.
Totaled.
You could learn a lot from a dummy. Call 1-800-424-9393.
I was looking for a car for 3 months, and the folks at Honda Nissan knew I did TV commercials. And so they asked me for suggestions, and all I could tell them was how great I was treated at Honda Nissan. And the next thing you know, here I am. When I went to Honda Nissan, I was treated with such respect. And I really couldn't believe the quality and selection that I found there. People always tell me that you get what you pay for. But at Honda Nissan, you really do get what you pay for.
There's an awesome power that can eliminate over half of our nation's defense forces. It's everywhere, and it can strike at any time. Who has this incredible power? You do. If you employ National Guard and Reserve members, you need to use your power wisely, because today, the Guard and Reserve make up over half of our country's defense. So when they need time off to serve, be a hero. Give them the freedom to protect ours.
Thousands of women will lose a child to AIDS simply because they didn't get an HIV test when they were pregnant. You see, there's now treatment that can help stop the spread of HIV from mother to baby, which gives children of HIV-infected mothers something they never had before. A chance. If you're pregnant, please get an HIV test.
Medieval traditions are here in Grand Forks. It's a period that many people don't know about, but today we'll give you some special insight and a special look at what people wore in those days. Justin Dragosani is the president of a new group, People for Alternative Realities, a group which focuses on different traditions of the medieval period. Thank you for joining us today, Justin. Can you tell us about the main focus of People for Alternative Realities?
Yes, People for Alternative Realities is an organization that likes to explore topics that might be unusual to the public or something they haven't seen before. People for Alternative Realities does not do medieval combat per se exactly, but we sponsor the topic and the idea, and we've invited the Society for Creative Anachronism to come and do activities with us. I am a member of the Society for Creative Anachronism.
How did you get involved with these organizations?
I started PAR myself. As for Society for Creative Anachronism, I've always been interested in the medieval period, and so got into it that way.
Can you tell us a little bit about the costumes that you and Jeremy and Carol are wearing today?
Yes, in the Society for Creative Anachronism, we tend to choose a persona that we will be, a name and a time period that we're from. My name is Basarab the Wary. I'm from 12th century Romania, and my associates could speak for themselves, I suppose.
Okay.
I'm Garth Wright Mistlethrush. I'm from medieval 15th century England, and just trying to fight.
I am Siobhan McNeil from mid-13th century Ireland.
I understand you make your own costumes. What goes into making these costumes?
Well, I would say the main thing is time. It takes a heck of a lot of time. Everything you see us wearing, somebody's made. You know, we may have purchased it from someone, parts of our outfit from people that have more skill in a specific area like armoring or weaving or something. But most of what we wear is made by ourselves.
Do you do a lot of research in getting these costumes
Yes,
to
very much
be authentic?
So. Very much so. We do the research for the garb, as we call it, for the weapons, everything. We try to get as authentic to our period as possible.
How did you learn the rules for the combating that you'll be doing later?
Okay, the Society for Creative Anachronism has many rules on combat, and it's very diverse and complex and concise. We have national and international marshals that are authorized to referee the things that we do. We have to authorize individually with each weapon to make sure that we're safe. Safety is a big concern, but we go out and have fun at the same time.
What level are you at right now?
Well, I'm authorized in 5 weapons forms, which is kind of a lot, and I think I'm a marshal, where I just took the test and I don't know for sure yet, but I'm kind of up there.
Can you start doing a little duel for us right now this morning?
Sure, we can do that.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Part of the headgear that you're putting on, what is that made of?
Our headgear is made out of steel. 16 gauge steel is our minimum. So yeah, this stuff can take a lot. Sometimes we get headaches from getting hit pretty hard, but otherwise we're okay. Are you ready, my lord? Ready. We kill according to a blow to the head, a blow to the body is a death, arm or leg is just taken. Ready? Yeah. Blow. Good. Again. Good mother.
Thank you, Justin, Carol, and Jeremy. 54 minutes now past the hour. Studio One will continue after this.
From the University of North Dakota, you're watching Studio One.
UND's Division of Continuing Education can help you learn throughout your lifetime. Begin or continue your education through correspondence study and learning after hours with classes on weekends and evenings. Or enhance your personal and professional development through conferences, management seminars, and specialized programs.
Our goal is to provide quality programs and extend UND resources to you.
For more information, call 777-4266 or 1-800-342-8230.
Good afternoon, officer. My license and registration. Cheeseburger? It's hot out today, huh, officer? Maybe my tail light's out.
Shouldn't you be
carpooling? I guess you're right.
I guess I am.
Carpooling can save up to 600,000 gallons of gas a year. This message sponsored by Ad Council and Earthshare.
Newman Outdoor Advertising, a site for more eyes. Outdoor advertising, it's bigger than life. It gives you flexibility. Use it as a constant reminder. Use it to advertise your message or product. Outdoor advertising, it's big, it's bold. Get your message across. Outdoor advertising, it works. For more information, call Bill Kasager in Fargo or Grand Forks.
After we tell you about this story, you may want to rethink the phrase, a dog is a man's best friend. Two North Dakota hunters, John Hastings and Matthew Petrie, are recovering today from shotgun pellet injuries suffered after their hunting dog accidentally shot them.
One of the people John and Matthew were hunting with set his 20-gauge shotgun and 2 pheasants down on the ground. Suddenly, several of the hunting dogs ran to where the pheasants were dropped, including John's black lab named Rocky. He says Rocky stepped on the trigger of the shotgun, firing several pellets from the shell, which hit John and Matthew. More than 25 pellets hit John's pants. Fortunately for him, the pants were thick enough to prevent most of the pellets from penetrating. John says despite the 9 pellets, which are still lodged in his leg, he still plans to go hunting this weekend.
Talk about determined individuals.
Yeah, dedicated hunter.
Yeah. We'll have to worry about that dog, though. Probably he's not going to take Rocky along with him. Well, that does it for us today. Thank you for joining us. We're going to leave you with pictures from the Halloween season and just one of the many spooky houses that you've encountered along your way, courtesy of Studio One's Aaron Campbell. From all of us at Studio One, have a great week.